Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. It's the last video of 2021, 3 days before Christmas. We thought we'd just do a quick video. Well, probably be a long video because there'll probably be some debating here. We're going to do some awards for 2021. I'm here with Rick. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. We need 2 more to get to 60, so help us out. Yeah, 3 days to Christmas. I thought we could have maybe done some Christmas jumpers and a beer, but you're not a Christmas jumper guy, are you? I know that for a fact.
I'm in my holiday gear here.
I know you're still rocking a bit of a tan, actually. Have you got a beer? Got a beer at least?
No.
No? All right. All right. On with it. Okay, let's just jump straight into it because this might probably be a debating back and forth here. I think the first one is going to be pretty easy. Fighter of the year. I'm going to go. Well, I've gone with Canelo. I think this will be most fighters of the year purely because of what he's achieved in unifying the super middleweight division across different platforms. And also his activity as well for somebody who is, really the top of the pile, king of the hill. You usually find there's always a temptation for them to just take one fight a year. And he's fighting three times this year, and fought Callum Smith at the back end of last year. So 4 fights in under 12 months, technically. It's just so impressive. He's jumping straight back into another camp. He's already talking about, writing, more history again next year in the light heavyweight division, excuse me, or maybe jumping up to cruiserweight. I think it's one of 2 routes. And he's just an absolute phenom. The amount of fights he's had as well. Well over 50, I think 50 fights now. So yeah, that's a pretty easy one to get started. Your fighter of the year, Rick?
Jojo Dan. No, I'm joking. Yeah, can't argue with Canelo, and yeah, nothing more to say really. You've kind of given all the reasons. For each one, I've tried to think of like a second one, and also a few shout outs of other ones that would be, in the running. And Usyk is probably my second, and I think he's coming to, even though he fought once this year, he's fought and become a multi-belt winner in the heavyweight division. Through one victory, but people have different opinions on Joshua. It's never an easy fight, especially when you go into the cauldron with 60,000-70,000, and just the way he won as well. It was quite convincing. So I think to do that was pretty impressive. And shout out to Josh Taylor, Fury, and Kambosa, some of the other ones that are quite impressive. Good years.
Yeah, for the same reasons that you've given, I would have probably gone Kambosos, just because of the manner of the victory and how they were. I mean, let's not forget, they were seriously messed around on that fight, especially on Triller in July. He kept his nerve, kept professional, kept in camp, did an absolute number. So yeah, I probably would have gone Kambosos had Canelo not had the year that he had. And also, yeah, Josh Taylor, fantastic contribution for 2021.
The only thing that probably put Usyk that little bit further ahead for me was the size of the crowd and the enormity of it.
Yeah.
You take on Joshua, you're taking on a part of a country in a sense, aren't you? With huge attendance like that. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's an easy one to get started. Okay, fight of the year 2021. You go first on this one. Give us yours.
Fury Wilder 3. This was the one I actually found the hardest. All the other ones I had loads of. I haven't even really got a number 2. I mean, Chisora Parker 2 came into my head, but I just think that's because it's just recent. But I think the main reasons here are it had all the things really. There wasn't a bad round. It was pretty action all the way. Both went down multiple times.
Yeah.
And it ended in a pretty spectacular knockout on top of that, it's a very high level fight, and then it's a heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have better fights, but it's not the right level or not the heavyweight division. In my mind, is always going to get that little bit extra. Yeah. So for all those reasons, that was a fight of the year. And to be fair, all of us saying probably don't want to see it again after the first two. Well, that kind of shut us up, because even though there were other fights we may have wanted to see, that kind of showed us that these two will always mix quite well.
Yeah, I get that. I did have Fury Wilder 3 in my head as well. The only reason why I didn't go for that as the fight of the year, like for me, a fight of the year has to be like you literally have no idea which way this could swing, or it swings one way and then round 8 and 9, it looks like the other guy's taken over. And for me, I guess, and this is just my own kind of breakdown of it, I think there was probably a moment in round 3 when Wilder put Fury down where you're like, oh, okay, Wilder could potentially win this. But it was only really for maybe a round and a half where I thought Wilder had a shot at winning. I felt like Fury, for the very first part, first 2 rounds, and then from round 4, halfway through 4 and beyond, it felt like he was always going to win the fight, I guess. And that's just my interpretation of it. It could be miles off.
He went down twice, and that. But I just think because as the fight went on, it felt more and more like Fury. But because Fury was so dominant and they already had Wilder down, and then Wilder showed that even when I'm hurt, I can still get you.
Yeah.
Even in like round 6 where Wilder was getting beat up, I still thought he could just land again.
Yeah.
And though I think Fury's got a pretty good chin, it doesn't take a lot to put him down.
Yeah.
Fury goes down relatively easy. He gets up all the time though. That's kind of his chin. But yeah. So what was yours then?
Yeah, I'm similar to you. I had a hard time picking one. There's a lot that were pretty good, but it feels like a lot of them were in the first half of the year. Estrado versus Chocolatito 2 was really good. I really enjoyed that fight. So excuse me. Troy Williamson, Ted Cheeseman. Again, great fight. Ted Cheeseman's always in good fights.
Yeah, I rated that. Cheeseman's probably been in quite a few. Every one of his is a contender, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And then obviously ended badly for Ted Cheeseman. But what a fight that was. Unbelievable. But the one that I went for, and also this probably links to the kind of the elite kind of level, Oscar Valdez versus Miguel Berchelt. And I guess I was obviously rooting for Valdez because that was my pick. And he was a slight underdog in that fight. But to see him step up to super featherweight and beat Miguel Berchelt in the manner that he did, it was an unbelievable fight. They just went to war, and it was a sickening finish as well. I had to rewatch the fight because it was in my memory, but I felt like I needed to watch it again just to make sure that was my pick. Yeah, an unbelievable, a great, fight of the year, but it ends with a knockout as well. So that kind of, sort of swung it for me, and the manner of the finish. But yeah, Oscar Valdez beating Miguel Berchelt. Yeah, that was my fight of the year.
Okay.
All right.
So halfway
there. Not too much debating, actually. It's all right. This is obviously a prestigious award, Undisputed Boxing, knockout of the year.
The much coveted.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be delighted when they hear. I've gone for Callum Smith versus Castillo. Obviously, granted, this was a bit of a tune-up fight, for lack of a better term. There's actually quite a lot of good knockouts to choose from, but this was just right on the temple. And Castillo just folded like a cheap deck chair. His legs started shaking, which I'd never seen happen before. And yeah, just a bit of a sickening knockout. But that was my, maybe not the crispest punch or the sweetest punch, but obviously, on target. And yeah, just the manner of the knockout. That was what was impressive for me.
Yeah, I'll come back to yours and why I haven't. I'll be honest. I hadn't remembered that. And then when you told me about your pick, I went back to look at it, and I still didn't put it in my top 2 anyway. I struggled between 2 actually, 2 pretty brutal knockouts, but in the end I went for Buatsi knocking out Dos Santos.
Yeah.
I think this was middle point of the year, or maybe a bit earlier on. It wasn't his last fight; it was the fight before, and I think it was in the 4th round or 5th round. And I think he may have been down once before, and it was just a matter of time. But he absolutely cracks him, and it's a clean punch. And the way he goes down lifeless, I mean, that's the thing that gets me. It's a bit brutal talking about this. The other one that came very close was a Jagba versus Howard, which was, again, well, it's a Jagba's last win. That was another one where just the way they fold and they're lifeless. The only thing I'd say about your one, the leg shaking is a freaky thing, and I can see that's why. The only thing for me is that it's probably not the cleanest. I've seen them fall worse, and he is kind of conscious looking at his legs, but the leg shaking is weird. Yeah. For me, it's almost when they fall. It's sick talking about this, but when they're almost out and they're just limp.
Yeah.
And sometimes their leg gets caught behind them as well, like Grove style against Froch.
Yeah.
Other ones that didn't quite make it, but stuck in my head was a Coley's knockout for his title win. Just a very clean punch and floored for them. And then Conor Benn, only very recently, again, clean punch, and he fell just quite lifelessly. Now he kind of regained conscious quite quickly. But yeah, quite a lot to choose from, wasn't there?
Yeah, there probably was actually. Yeah. I had the honourable mention of Conor Benn against Chris Algieri. That was, I think, the way he set it up as well, which was really nice. The feint to the left and then swinging in with the right and just put him to sleep. Yeah.
It's when the one that the Buatsi de Santos, he hits him and he kind of remains slightly up for a minute, and his head drops and his arms are just down by his side, and he just goes over, and it's just like a corpse.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How I guess some people have maybe different criteria. Like if I was to say to you, what's like the best knockout that you've ever seen that you've watched like over the years, like one off the top of your head that kind of sticks in your mind of a knockout.
Canelo, you put me on the spot now. I remember I can't remember who he was fighting, but I remember one, and I thought it was Tyson early on in his career, and it wasn't so much the knockdown; it was the follow-up. It was probably illegal, actually. I don't know if he got what the repercussions were, but he knocked someone down, and he's kind of almost on his knees, and he's at almost hip height. And Tyson just comes in afterwards and just throws this shot, and he's right up against the ropes, and his head just goes right back through the ropes.
Yeah.
And he's just out. I mean, I can't remember now whether he's actually on his knees or he's basically gone down onto his feet, but bent down. But it's sickening. And I remember just thinking, because he's almost lifeless like that. It's like a free shot. Yeah. And just with someone like Tyson so vicious, that always sticks in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good one. I always, the one that sticks in my head is Juan Manuel Marquez against Manny Pacquiao. I think the 4th one, when he just puts him to sleep and then Manny Pacquiao just falls flat on his face, right hand. A lot of people just thought that's the end of Pacquiao, and he just went on to dominate another division. It was crazy.
Yeah. Another sickening one, which I think probably one of the worst knockouts I've seen in terms of how it affected me, because I was cheering on the person so much, was when Pacquiao cleaned out Hatton.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a sickening one. And when you're cheering on someone so much, and you could just see it coming as well. Yeah,
I know. Well, that was in the 2nd round, that was. And Hatton had a terrible first round. Like, he was all over the place. It was almost like it was almost like a mismatch, wasn't it? It was kind of on paper, it was a decent fight, but Pacquiao just ran through him, and Hatton was all over the place. I think he had a terrible camp as well, though, Ricky Hatton. That was when he teamed up with Floyd Mayweather Sr.
Yeah. I mean, another one that sticks in my head, and again, I was cheering the person on, but I should have been used to this by now with Khan, is when he got cleaned out by Canelo.
Yeah.
That was quite a bad one.
I just really feared for Khan in that fight. It didn't give any kind of hope. Like if
Yeah. I mean, he was winning it as well, but you just like knew. You just knew it was coming.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress. So last one, upset of the year, 2021. What did I go for? Yeah. Oh yeah,
is it
Kiko? Is it you? Okay, you go first. Go on.
I think it's me first. Yeah, well, yours is my number 2. Again, there's a long list here. This was a real long list.
Well, this is probably the most difficult category because, you know, how many upsets did we have? So many.
Yeah,
a lot.
So I went for, I can't remember the guy's first name, but Martin beating Mikey Garcia.
Sandor Martin.
Yeah, on points. And I think, you know, I mean, you've gone for Martinez versus Kiko versus Galahad, haven't you? You said it anyway. And, you know, that was a very close number 2. I think the thing for me is Garcia is a multi-weight world champion and, you know, has done more in boxing. You know, he's done a lot in boxing. He's not just won world title at one weight. And, you know, he's defended it and stuff like that. And I think he's unified in one division. And I know he had a long time off and all that stuff, but this other guy, Martin, has done absolutely nothing. I mean, he's fought no one, and the 2 people that beaten him are no ones, and then that happens. So that for me was the upset. But yeah, Galahad and Martinez was my next one.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from on Sandor Martin, Mikey Garcia. I guess kind of upset. Again, this all comes down to criteria. For me, if it's like a knockout, I don't know, I always lean towards like a knockout loss. So like an AJ versus Andy Ruiz is like a classic kind of upset of the year because he got stopped. And I think just the gap, I think Sandor Martin is kind of a prospect coming up on the European scene. But yeah, I mean, Kiko Martinez, I mean, people complained when he was matched up to Kid Galahad, excuse me, for a mandatory defense. And nobody gave him a shot. And what is he now, 35, 36? He's been stopped a couple of times. And
but it's kind of, I mean, for me, it's one of these, though. If you break it down, it's an ex-world champion versus someone who's making their first defense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you know, when you break it like that, it shouldn't be so surprising. But obviously, there's more in it than that.
There is. I mean, Kid Galahad and Scott Quick were like fierce rivals, and you know, we're always slacking each other off, and we're kind of like that. And Scott Quick stopped Kiko Martinez in like 2 rounds, like 7, 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. What was that on the undercard of? Would have been on an AJ undercard, I bet.
No, I don't think it was. I think that might have been the other. Oh no, who's the other Manchester fighter around that time?
Anthony Crolla. Yeah, because they were in the same camp. Yeah, they were both under.
Yeah, so it was a good card, that, actually. I remember that. I don't know if it was second. Was it second round? I feel like it went on longer than that, more like 4 or 5, but might have been second. But yeah, that's yeah. I don't get it. I get the knockout thing as well in terms of it is more decisive. I just still look at Martin and goes, you know, he was a world champion once, so a long time ago, and Kid Galahad is very new to being a world champion, where Garcia has done it all, multiple weights, and Martin's done bugger all. He might be a prospect, but he's still got beat off 2 people I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Some other mentions, because obviously this is, you know, Lopez Warrington, obviously the first fight earlier in the year. That was
you mean Lara Warrington?
Sorry, Lara Warrington. That was earlier in the year, and they drew again. They drew because of a cuts, wasn't it? Later on. Lopez Cambota was, you know, a shock. You could also say Lopez and Lomachenko a little bit. Not as much so, but
that was last year, though, wasn't it?
Was it last year?
Yeah.
Uh,
You're not very good with your years, are you?
Yeah, I know. Charlo Castano was a draw. And I actually think he was lucky to get that draw.
Yeah, that was a robbery. Well, not a robbery, but yeah.
Yeah. And that was a shock. And there's probably tons of others as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, AJ Usyk, I mean, would you say that's an upset? I mean, Usyk was an underdog.
Not into this category. I think anyone who knows about boxing knew that was a very tough. I think the slight shock is how comfortable it was.
Yeah.
But not that he won. I think if he'd knocked him out early or something, it would have been more of a shock. Yeah. But not the actual result. Yeah, trying to think of any others earlier in the year. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps it up. Awards, Undisputed Boxing 2021. We're out. Next video will be, are we going to do a prediction for Charles Martin versus Luis Ortiz on New Year's Day?
Oh, we can. It'll be a laugh. Yeah.
Or Golovkin versus Mayotta.
When is that?
That's on the 29th or the 30th, I think.
Yeah, we'll just talk about that one and maybe do a prediction on Martin.
You want to do a prediction on Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, give me this then. Give me the top 2 fights that you want to happen next year. That's kind of semi on the cards, realistic.
That haven't been announced?
Yeah. Strike off AJ Usyk, because that's obviously going to happen. But yeah, give me your top 2 fights you want to see.
I'm going to lean all over the heavyweights here. I'm just going to say, I hope White gets his shot against Fury.
Yeah. White Fury.
So White Fury. And then part of me wants, I'll be pretty split on that and who I want to win, just generally. But part of me, just for the story of boxing, hopes that Fury wins and faces AJ at the end of the year, because AJ's won his belts back.
Yeah.
So that would be it for me.
Okay.
So best man win at that point.
So White Fury, so King of the Hill for the heavyweights. White Fury, and then the winner faces AJ.
Yeah, who will have to have won.
Yeah.
Against Usyk. For all the belts, hopefully all the belts can stay alive in that.
Okay.
How about you?
Tank Ryan Garcia. I'd love to see that next year. I think that'd be a superb fight. Who else? I mean, Crawford Spence. It looks like that could happen next year. That would be really nice.
Really nice.
It would. That would be nice. Nice. Who else? Inoue maybe against Cesar Martinez. That'd be quite good. Yeah.
Canelo Charlo, you'd like, wouldn't you?
Yes. Jamel Charlo versus Canelo. I just got to see that happening though.
No.
But yeah, I think next year, hopefully, once the COVID nonsense has passed, we'll get some good fights. Hopefully, these promotional outfits can start to get together and make some good fights. But wishful thinking. It is boxing after all.
Buatsi Yard after Buatsi's one.
Oh yeah, yes, I love that one as well. Yeah. Buatsi.
And I'm really pleased. I know it's come late, but I'm still pleased. Card and Brooks happening.
Yes, that is good. Yeah, that is what I'm looking forward to. That's in Feb. Like the schedule's actually stacking up pretty well.
Yeah, but and even though Martin Ortiz is a bit thingy, it's got me. I mean, I probably can't watch it, but I'll be first to look at it, on YouTube the next morning.
Well, let's review it in the new year, and then we'll do a prediction on Joe Smith Jr. versus Callum Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, and don't you want some people to join us next year?
Yes. Okay. So get in touch on my email address. I'll leave it in the description. We want to do some videos with a couple more panelists just to kind of mix things up a little bit. So yeah, get in touch with me on email. I'll leave it in the description. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for listening.
Get us to 60.